Margaret Callahan dropped to her knees in the snow, her hands trembling as she touched the stranger's frozen face. He wasn't moving. 3 tiny bundles pressed against his chest, wrapped in a blood-soaked coat. Babies. Lord have mercy. 3 babies. His cracked lips moved barely a whisper. Please, ma'am. Don't let them die. Not me. Just them. Then his eyes rolled back and he went still. Margaret caught the babies before they could fall into the snow. 3 lives in her arms, and a dead man at her feet. Before we continue this incredible story, please subscribe to our channel and follow until the end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story has traveled. The blizzard had been howling for 3 days straight. Margaret Callahan stood at her kitchen window, watching the white wall of snow swallow everything beyond her porch. The general store had been empty for a week now. No travelers, no cattle drivers, just her son Finn, and the endless Texas winter that had come too early this year. She turned back to the stove, stirring the pot of beans that would be their supper again. "Ma, the horses are getting restless." Finn stood in the doorway, 17 years old, and trying so hard to be the man his father never got to finish raising. He had Patrick's eyes, that same stubborn set to his jaw. "I'll check on them after supper," Margaret said. "I can do it." "I know you can, but you'll eat first." He didn't argue. 4 years since Patrick died, and Finn had learned which battles weren't worth fighting. He sat down at the table, pulling his coat tighter, even though the fire was burning strong. Margaret ladled beans into 2 tin bowls. The silence between them was comfortable. Familiar. They'd learned to live in quiet spaces together. Then she heard it. A sound that didn't belong to the wind. A thump. Heavy against the front door. Finn's head snapped up. "What was that?" Margaret held up her hand. She reached for the rifle above the mantel, the one Patrick had taught her to shoot before he taught her to love him. Her fingers wrapped around the cold metal. Another thump. Weaker this time. "Stay here," she whispered. "Ma, I said stay." She moved to the door, rifle raised. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Nobody came to the store in weather like this. Nobody with good intentions anyway. She pulled open the door. The wind hit her face like a fist. Snow swirled into the cabin, stinging her eyes. And there, collapsed against her porch railing, was a shape. A man. Big. Broad-shouldered. Covered in snow and something darker. Blood. Margaret stepped forward, rifle still ready. "Hey. Hey, you." The man didn't move. She knelt down, brushing snow from his face. He was maybe 40-45. Dark hair matted with ice. A beard crusted with frost. His skin was gray, lips blue, but his arms were wrapped around something. 3 small bundles pressed to his chest, tucked inside his coat like he was trying to keep them warm with the last heat his body had. Margaret's breath caught. Babies. 3 babies. So small they couldn't be more than a few months old. "Oh my God." She looked back toward the house. Finn, get out here now." The man's eyes fluttered, just barely. His cracked lips moved, and Margaret leaned closer to hear. "Please." His voice was barely a rasp. "Save them. Not me. Just save them." His eyes rolled back. His arms went slack. Margaret caught the babies before they could fall into the snow. 1 in each arm, 1 pressed against her chest. Impossibly light. Impossibly cold. She could feel them breathing tiny, stuttered breaths against her body. Finn appeared in the doorway. "Ma, what the—" "Help me get him inside." "Who is he?" "I don't know. Just help me." Finn grabbed the man's arms, while Margaret cradled the infants. Together they dragged him across the threshold, leaving a trail of blood on the wooden floor. Margaret kicked the door shut against the storm. "By the fire," she ordered. "Lay him by the fire." They positioned him on the braided rug close to the heat. Margaret thrust the babies into Finn's arms. "Hold them. Keep them warm. Don't let them go." Finn looked down at the tiny faces, his expression caught between fear and wonder. "Ma, there's 3 of them. 3. I know. They're so small." "I know." Margaret was already tearing open the man's coat looking for the source of the blood. She found it. A wound in his side, ragged and deep, not a bullet hole. Something else. A knife, maybe. "He's been stabbed," she said. "Who would stab a man carrying babies?" Margaret didn't answer. She grabbed clean rags from the basket by the stove and pressed them hard against the wound. The man groaned but didn't wake. "Ma." Finn's voice was tight. "What are we doing?" "We're saving his life. We don't know who he is. He could be anyone. A criminal. A killer." Margaret looked up at her son. His face was pale, scared. He was right to be scared. 4 years alone had taught them both to be careful, to question, to protect what little they had. But those babies. "You want me to throw him back out in that storm?" she asked quietly. "You want me to let those children freeze?" Finn's jaw tightened. He looked down at the infants in his arms. One of them made a small sound, a whimper that cut through the howling wind outside. "No, ma'am," he said finally. "I don't." "Then help me." For the next hour they worked. Margaret cleaned and stitched the wound the best she could, using skills she'd learned from Esther Crow and never thought she'd need. Finn kept the babies warm, feeding them drops of warm milk from a rag, watching them like they might break if he breathed too hard. The man didn't wake. His breathing was shallow, his skin still gray. But the bleeding had stopped. That was something. When Margaret finally sat back, her hands were shaking. Blood stained her dress, her apron, the floor around them. The fire crackled. The wind screamed outside. "Who do you think he is?" Finn asked. Margaret wiped her hands on a clean rag. "I don't know." "Those babies, they look like him. Same dark hair." "They're his then. Must be. Where's their mother?" Margaret looked at the man's left hand. No ring, but there was a pale line on his finger where one used to be. "Gone," she said quietly. "One way or another." Finn shifted the babies in his arms. They'd all 3 fallen asleep exhausted and finally warm. "What do we do when he wakes up?" "We ask questions." "And if we don't like the answers?" Margaret met her son's eyes, Patrick's eyes. "Then we figure it out." The man didn't wake that night, or the next morning. He lay by the fire, breathing shallow but steady while Margaret changed his bandages and Finn tended to the babies. They found names stitched inside the infants' blankets. Emma, William, Rose, 2 girls and a boy. "Someone loved them," Finn said, running his finger over the careful embroidery. "Someone took time to make these." Margaret nodded. She'd been thinking the same thing. These weren't the children of a man running from nothing. These were the children of a man who had something to lose. On the second afternoon, the blizzard finally broke. The sky cleared to a hard blue, and the world outside was buried in white. Margaret stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, scanning the horizon out of habit. Nothing. No movement. No riders. But something felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. Just a tightness in her chest. A prickle at the back of her neck. The same feeling she'd had the night before Patrick's accident. The night she'd begged him not to ride out to check on the cattle. He'd gone anyway. He'd always been stubborn that way. Margaret went back inside. The man was still unconscious, but his color was better. Pink in his cheeks instead of gray. His breathing deeper. "He's going to wake up soon," she said. Finn looked up from where he sat, William asleep in his lap. "Good. You don't sound like you mean that." "I don't know what I mean." Finn's voice was tired. "I've been up 2 nights with these babies, and I don't even know this man's name. I don't know why someone stabbed him. I don't know why he was walking through a blizzard with 3 infants. None of this makes sense." Margaret sat down across from him. "No, it doesn't. So why are we helping him? She thought about that. Really thought about it. Because your father would have, she said finally. Because when Patrick found me, I was 17 years old with nothing but a broken wagon and a dead horse. I was nobody. I had nobody. And he helped me anyway. He didn't ask questions first. He just helped. Finn was quiet for a long moment. I miss him. I know. Me too. He would have known what to do. Margaret reached across and squeezed her son's hand. We'll figure it out. We always do. That evening, the man opened his eyes. Margaret was sitting by the fire mending one of Finn's shirts when she heard him stir. She set down her needle and moved closer, rifle within reach. His eyes were dark, almost black in the firelight. They focused, slowly moving from the ceiling to the walls to her face. Confusion, then fear, then something else. Where? His voice cracked. He tried to sit up and gasped, hand flying to his side. Don't move, Margaret said. You'll tear your stitches. My children. Where are my children? Safe. They're sleeping. He tried to sit up again, and she pressed him back down with a firm hand on his shoulder. I said don't move. They're fine. They've been fed and warm for 2 days now. You're the one who nearly died. He went still. His eyes searched her face. 2 days. Blizzard kept up that long. You've been unconscious. Who are you? Margaret Callahan. This is my general store. You collapsed on my porch in the middle of a storm with 3 babies and a knife wound in your side. She crossed her arms. I think I'm the one who gets to ask questions. He stared at her. Then slowly he exhaled. Some of the tension left his shoulders. My name is Elijah McAllister. Eli. Those are my children, Emma, William, and Rose. Their mother. His jaw tightened. Dead. 3 months now. Margaret felt the weight of that word. Dead. She knew what it meant to carry that weight. How'd you get stabbed? Eli looked away toward the fire. The flames reflected in his eyes. There are men after me. Bad men. They'll be coming. Margaret's hand moved toward the rifle. What kind of bad men? The kind that don't stop. That's not an answer. He turned back to her, met her eyes. I was a Texas Ranger, worked out of Austin for 8 years. 3 months ago, a man named Judge Cornelius Whitmore accused me of killing a fellow Ranger. Said I shot him over money. Did you? No, ma'am. I never even drew on the man. He was my friend. But Whitmore has money. He has power. He put a price on my head, $500, and he's got bounty hunters who don't care about truth. They just care about getting paid. Margaret studied him. His face was open. Honest. But she'd known honest-looking men who were liars, and liars who told the truth when it suited them. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't. Eli's voice was quiet. You've got no reason to trust a word I say. I'm a stranger who bled all over your floor and put your family in danger just by being here. If you want me gone, I'll go. Soon as I can stand, I'll walk out into that snow with my babies. I've walked through worse. You almost died walking through this one. Then I'll die trying. But I won't bring trouble to a woman who saved my life. That ain't who I am. Margaret was quiet for a long moment. The fire crackled. Wind pressed against the windows. Who stabbed you? She asked. One of Whitmore's men. Caught up to me 3 days ago. I got away, but not clean. And you've been walking since? Yes, ma'am. With 3 babies. His eyes went soft. Soft and fierce at the same time. They're all I have left. I couldn't leave them. I won't leave them. Margaret thought about Patrick. About the way he'd looked at Finn when he was born, like the whole world had shifted and rearranged itself around this one tiny person. You rest tonight, she said finally. We'll talk more in the morning. Ma'am? Margaret. My name is Margaret. Eli nodded slowly. Margaret, I meant what I said. I'll leave as soon as I can. I won't put you in danger. She stood, picking up her mending. You're in no condition to go anywhere, and those babies need proper care. So rest, heal, and then we figure out what comes next. She walked to the doorway, then paused, looked back at him. My husband used to say there are two kinds of men in this world, men who run toward trouble and men who run from it. She held his gaze. Which kind are you, Eli McAllister? He met her eyes. I used to run toward it. Now I'm just trying to keep my children alive. Margaret nodded once. Get some sleep. She left him by the fire. In the small bedroom off the kitchen, Finn was asleep in the chair, Emma and Rose in his arms, William tucked into a dresser drawer they'd converted into a makeshift crib. Margaret stood in the doorway, watching them breathe. So small, so helpless. What had she gotten herself into? She didn't know, couldn't know. But Patrick had always said that doing right wasn't about knowing, it was about choosing. Even when you couldn't see where the road led. She'd made her choice. Now she had to live with it. Margaret woke before dawn. The fire had burned low, and frost crept across the windows. She rose quietly, wrapped her shawl tight, and moved into the main room. Eli was awake, sitting up despite her orders with his back against the stone of the fireplace. His eyes were fixed on the door. You should be resting, she said. Couldn't sleep. The pain. No. He looked at her. I keep listening for hoofbeats. Margaret felt that cold prickle again, that wrongness. You think they're close? I don't know. I lost them in the storm, but men like that don't give up. They'll find my trail eventually. Find this place. Then we'll be ready. Eli shook his head. You don't understand. Cornelius Whitmore doesn't want me arrested. He wants me dead. And anyone who helps me. He didn't finish. Margaret walked to the window, looking out at the white expanse. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the snow pink and gold. My husband died 4 years ago, she said quietly. Horse threw him on the ridge trail, broke his neck. They told me to sell this place, move to town. Said a woman couldn't run a store alone. She turned to face Eli. I buried him myself, dug the grave in frozen ground with my own 2 hands. Then I ran this store through 4 winters, raised my son, and didn't ask anybody's permission to keep living. Eli watched her, didn't speak. I don't scare easy, Mr. McAllister, and I don't run from trouble. So if these men come, they'll find more than they bargained for. Something flickered in Eli's eyes. Respect, maybe, or surprise. Why? He asked. Why would you do that for a stranger? Margaret thought about it. About the babies sleeping in the next room. About the way Eli had held them even half dead, like they were the only thing in the world that mattered. Because sometimes, she said, a stranger is just someone you haven't helped yet. The door to the bedroom opened. Finn stepped out, hair mussed, eyes blurry. He saw Eli sitting up and stopped. He's awake. He is, Margaret said. Finn, this is Elijah McAllister. Eli, my son Daniel. The two looked at each other. Finn's expression was guarded, suspicious. Eli just looked tired. Thank you, Eli said. For helping with Emma, William, and Rose. I know it wasn't easy. Finn shrugged. They cried a lot. They do that. An awkward silence. Margaret cleared her throat. I'll make breakfast. Finn, check on the horses. Finn hesitated, looking at Eli, then at his mother. Something passed between them, unspoken. Yes, ma'am, he said finally. He grabbed his coat and went out the back door. Margaret watched him go, then turned to Eli. He's protective. He should be. He's also young and scared and trying too hard to be a man. Eli nodded slowly. I had a son like that once, before Emma, William, and Rose. Margaret's hands stilled on the pan. Fever took him. 5 years ago. He was 6. The words hung in the air. Margaret didn't offer platitudes. Didn't say she was sorry. She knew how hollow those words sounded. What was his name? Thomas. After my father. She nodded. Thomas is a good name. They didn't speak again while she cooked, but the silence felt different now. Heavier, fuller. Finn came back in stamping snow from his boots. His face was tight. Ma. Something in his voice made her turn. What is it? Riders, on the ridge, 4 of them. They're moving slow like they're looking for something. Margaret's heart seized. She looked at Eli. His face had gone pale. How far? Maybe 20 minutes out. Eli was already trying to stand. I have to go. You can barely walk. If they find me here, they won't. Margaret grabbed the rifle from above the mantel and tossed it to Finn. He caught it, eyes wide. You know how to use that, she said. Yes, ma'am. Good. Then listen to me carefully. She met her son's eyes. These men are coming for Mr. McAllister. They want him dead, and they'll kill anyone who gets in their way. Finn's face went hard. What do we do? Margaret looked at the bedroom door. At the babies sleeping inside. At Eli pale and wounded, but still fighting to stand. We protect this family, she said. Finn blinked. Family. Margaret turned to him. Those babies didn't ask to be born into this. They didn't ask to lose their mother. They didn't ask for any of it. But they're here. In my house. Under my roof. She picked up the pistol from the table and checked the chamber. And nobody is going to hurt them while I'm still breathing. Eli stared at her. His eyes were wet. Margaret! Save it. We've got work to do. She moved toward the window, heart-pounding rifle ready. The riders were getting closer, and Margaret Callahan was done running. The riders stopped at the edge of Margaret's property. She counted them through the frost-covered window. 4 men. Heavy coats, rifles visible. They spread out slowly, deliberately, like wolves circling wounded prey. Finn, take the back window. Yes, ma'am. Eli, can you stand? I can try. Then get to the bedroom. Stay with the babies. Keep them quiet. Eli grabbed her arm. His grip was weak but desperate. Margaret, these men, they won't ask questions. They'll shoot first and collect the bounty after. Then we better not give them a reason to shoot. She pulled free and moved to the door before he could argue. The cold hit her like a wall when she stepped onto the porch. The lead rider nudged his horse forward. He was older, maybe 50, with a gray mustache and eyes that had seen too much death to care about one more. Morning, ma'am. He tipped his hat. Name's Harding. We're looking for a man. Margaret kept her hand on the doorframe. Ain't many men come through here this time of year. This one would be hard to miss. Tall, dark hair, probably wounded, traveling with babies. Babies. Margaret shook her head slowly. In this weather, that would be madness. Yes, ma'am, it would. Harding shifted in his saddle. His eyes moved past her toward the windows. Mind if we take a look around? I do mind, actually. This is my property, my home. One of the younger riders edged forward. His hand rested on his pistol. Lady, we ain't askin'. Margaret's fingers twitched toward the rifle leaning against the wall inside. And I ain't offering. Harding raised his hand, silencing the younger man. We don't want trouble, Mrs. Callahan, and neither do I. But you're on my land asking questions about strangers I haven't seen. The man we're looking for is dangerous. He killed a Texas Ranger, shot him in cold blood. Did he now? $500 reward. That's a lot of money for a widow running a store alone. Margaret felt the insult land. She let it sit there. Mr. Harding, the last stranger I saw was a cattle buyer 3 weeks ago. Since then, it's been nothing but snow and silence. Now, if you gentlemen are done wasting my time, I've got work to do. Harding studied her. His eyes were sharp, calculating. You live here alone? With my son. Where is he? Inside, doing chores. Mind calling him out? Margaret's jaw tightened. He's 17 years old. He's got nothing to do with whatever you're hunting. Just being thorough, ma'am. She held his gaze for a long moment. Then she turned her head slightly. Finn, come out here. A pause. Then Finn emerged from the side of the house rifle in his hands, pointed at the ground but ready. His face was pale but steady. Ma, these men are looking for someone. Tell them what you've seen. Finn looked at the riders, at the badges, at the guns. Ain't seen nobody. Just been us and the horses. The young rider snorted. Boy's lying. I ain't lying. Finn's voice was sharp. You calling me a liar? Easy. Harding held up his hand. Nobody's calling anyone anything. He looked at Finn, then at Margaret. Something flickered in his eyes. The man we're looking for is dangerous, Mrs. Callahan. If you're hiding him, you're putting yourselves at risk. If there was a killer in my home, I'd know it. Another long silence. Then Harding nodded. All right, ma'am, we'll move on. He tipped his hat. If you do see anything, there's a reward. Just send word to Judge Whitmore in Austin. I'll keep that in mind. The riders turned their horses. The young one shot one last look at the cabin, his eyes lingering on the windows. Then they rode off. Margaret stood on the porch until she couldn't see them anymore. Her hands were shaking. She'd hidden it well, but now alone the fear caught up to her. She went inside. Eli was in the bedroom doorway, pale, strained. I heard everything. They're gone. For now. Harding's smart. He'll circle back. Then we'll be ready. Margaret. He stepped toward her. You lied to them. You put yourself in danger. Why? She looked at him, at the desperation in his eyes, at the babies sleeping behind him. Because I made a choice, she said. And I don't go back on my choices. This isn't your fight. It is now. Something broke in his face. Not weakness relief. The relief of a man who'd been alone too long. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me yet. We're not out of this. She walked past him into the bedroom. Emma was awake, her dark eyes open, watching. Margaret picked her up, held her close. Hey there, little one, she murmured. Don't worry. I've got you. Behind her, Eli watched, and for the first time in months, he let himself hope. 2 hours later, another rider appeared. Margaret grabbed the rifle. Finn moved to the window. Eli struggled to his feet, reaching for the pistol. Wait. Margaret squinted at the approaching figure. I know that horse. The rider was a woman. Gray hair tucked under a wool cap, face red from the cold. She pulled up in front of the porch and climbed down. Esther. Heard there was excitement out here, Esther Crow said. Men came through town asking questions, wanted to know if anyone had seen a wounded man with babies. Margaret's stomach tightened. What did you tell them? Told them I hadn't seen anything, which was true at the time. Esther's eyes were sharp. But I've known you 20 years, Margaret Callahan, and I know when you're hiding something. Margaret didn't answer. Is he here? Esther. Don't lie to me. Is the man they're looking for in your house? Margaret met her friend's eyes. The same eyes that had held her hand when she buried Patrick. That had never once judged her. Yes. Esther exhaled. Lord have mercy. He's not what they say he is. They say he's a killer. He's a father trying to protect his children. Esther looked toward the cabin, at the smoke rising from the chimney, at the snow-covered yard. You believe him? I do. Why? Margaret thought about it. About Eli's eyes when he talked about his children, about the way he'd held them even half dead. Because I've seen liars, she said. I've served them coffee and watched them smile while they planned to rob me. I know what dishonesty looks like, and that man isn't lying. Esther was quiet for a long moment. "The men who came through town," she said finally. "They work for Judge Whitmore." "I know. You know what Whitmore is. Eli told me." "Then you know he's not just some rancher with a grudge. He's got judges in his pocket, sheriffs, politicians. Half the territory is scared of him." "I'm not scared." "You should be." Esther stepped closer. "Whitmore doesn't just want this man dead, Margaret. He wants anyone who helps him dead too. He's done it before." Margaret felt the weight of those words, but she didn't flinch. "Then he'll have to come here himself." Esther stared at her. Then unexpectedly she smiled. "Patrick always said you were the stubbornest woman in Texas." He was right. Esther reached into her wagon and pulled out a basket. "I brought supplies, flour, salt, some dried beef. Figured you might need them." Margaret took the basket. Her throat tightened. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Esther climbed back onto her wagon. "I'm going to do something stupid." "Esther." "I'm going to Austin, to the federal marshal's office." "That's 3 days' ride in this weather." "I know. Whitmore has people everywhere." "I know that too." Esther's eyes were hard. "My husband died working for a man like Whitmore. Worked him to death and called it an accident. I've been waiting 20 years for a chance to make it right." She gathered the reins. "Take care of those babies, Margaret, and take care of yourself." She drove off. Margaret watched her go, the basket heavy in her arms. Inside, Eli was waiting. "Your friend," he said. "She's putting herself at risk." "I know." "You should stop her." "You ever try to stop Esther Crow from doing anything?" Eli almost smiled. "Almost." "I don't deserve this," he said quietly. "Any of it. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Margaret set the basket on the table. "When I was 17, my family's farm burned down. Lightning strike. Killed my parents, my brother, everything I had." Eli listened. "I walked 40 miles in the rain with nothing but the clothes on my back. A stranger found me, brought me to his home, fed me, clothed me, gave me a place to sleep." She met his eyes. "That stranger was Patrick's father. If he hadn't helped me, I would have died. And Patrick never would have been born. And Finn never would have existed." She stood. "So don't tell me I don't owe anything to strangers, Eli McAllister. Everything I have, everything I am started with someone choosing to help when they didn't have to." She left him there, speechless. That night, Finn sat with Eli by the fire. Margaret was in the bedroom with the babies. She could hear their voices through the thin walls. "How'd you become a ranger?" Finn asked. "Fell into it mostly. I was working at a ranch and the captain needed an extra hand for a cattle rustling case. I helped him catch the thieves. He offered me a badge." "Did you like it?" "Parts of it. Helping people. Protecting folks who couldn't protect themselves." Eli paused. "Other parts, not so much." "Like what?" "Like the politics, the lies, the way money could make a guilty man innocent and an innocent man guilty." Finn was quiet for a moment. "Is that what happened to you?" "Yeah, that's exactly what happened." Another silence. "My pa was a good man," Finn said slowly. "Best man I ever knew. He would have helped you too." "I believe that. But he's gone, and now it's just me and Ma." Finn's voice cracked. "I can't lose her. I can't." Eli looked at the boy, at the fear in his eyes, at the weight on his shoulders. "You won't," he said. "I promise you, Finn. Whatever happens, I'll protect her. I'll protect both of you. You can barely stand. Then I'll crawl, but I won't let anyone hurt your family. Not while I'm breathing." Finn stared at him. Then slowly he nodded. "Okay," he said. "Okay. I believe you." Something shifted between them. Something that hadn't been there before. Trust. Margaret stood in the doorway listening. Tears on her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. 3 days passed. Eli grew stronger. The wound was healing, no infection, no fever. He started walking short distances, then longer ones. He helped with chores when Margaret let him. The babies thrived. Emma smiled for the first time, a gummy, toothless grin that made Finn laugh out loud. William and Rose slept through the night, finally giving everyone some rest. And Finn started to change. Margaret noticed it first. The way he watched Eli. The way he asked questions. The way he listened to the answers. "Tell me about the man you're accused of killing," Finn said one evening. Eli set down his coffee. "His name was Daniel Reed. He was my partner for 3 years. Best friend I had after my wife died." "What happened to him?" "He found out something he shouldn't have. About Whitmore. About the land deals. The bribes. The people who disappeared when they asked too many questions. And Whitmore killed him. Had him killed. Made it look like I did it. Planted evidence. Paid witnesses." Eli's voice was bitter. "By the time I realized what was happening, there was a bounty on my head and men with guns at my door." "So you ran?" "I had 3 newborns and a target on my back. What else could I do?" Finn nodded slowly. "My pa always said a man's worth ain't measured by what happens to him. It's measured by what he does about it." "Your pa sounds like a wise man." "He was." Finn looked at the fire. "I wish you could have met him." "Me too." Margaret stood in the kitchen pretending not to listen. Her heart full. On the 4th morning, Harding came back. Margaret heard the hoofbeats first. She grabbed her rifle and moved to the window. 8 riders this time, Harding in front. And beside him, a man she'd never seen before. Tall, silver hair, a coat that cost more than her store. "Eli," she called. "Get the babies to the cellar." Eli appeared in the doorway. When he saw the riders, his face went white. "That's Whitmore." "Are you sure?" "I'd know him anywhere." Margaret's grip tightened on the rifle. "Get the children hidden, now." Eli moved, fast despite his wound. He gathered Emma, William, and Rose, wrapped them tight, and disappeared through the kitchen. Finn was at her side, rifle ready. "Ma." "Stay behind me. Don't speak unless I tell you." "Ma, there's too many of them." "I know." She opened the door. Whitmore dismounted before she could speak. He moved like a man who owned everything he walked on. His smile was polished, cold. "Mrs. Callahan, what a pleasure." "I don't believe we've met." "Judge Cornelius Whitmore." He tipped his hat. "I apologize for the intrusion, but I believe you have something that belongs to me." "I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do." His smile didn't waver. "A man named Elijah McAllister. A murderer. A fugitive. He's been seen in this area. Lots of men pass through here. I can't keep track of all of them." "Of course." Whitmore stepped closer. "But this particular man has 3 infants with him. Very distinctive. Surely you'd remember that." Margaret felt Finn tense beside her. She kept her face blank. "I haven't seen any man with babies." Whitmore studied her. His eyes were like stones, flat, cold, calculating. "Mrs. Callahan, I'm a reasonable man. I understand that you might feel sympathetic to someone who appears vulnerable. A wounded man. Helpless children. It stirs something in a woman's heart." Margaret said nothing. "But this man is dangerous. He killed a Texas Ranger, a good man with a family of his own. He deserves justice. Surely you can understand that." "I understand a lot of things, Judge. I understand that a man who brings 8 riders to a widow's doorstep ain't looking for justice. He's looking for something else." Whitmore's smile flickered. Just for a moment. "You're a smart woman." "Smart enough?" "Then you're smart enough to know that this doesn't end well for you. Not if you continue to obstruct me." Margaret felt the threat land, felt it settle in her bones. "Is that a warning?" "It's a fact." Whitmore stepped back. "I'll give you 24 hours to reconsider. After that, he shrugged. Well, let's just say I have resources, many resources, and I don't leave loose ends. He mounted his horse. 24 hours, Mrs. Callahan. Use them wisely. They rode off. Margaret watched them go. Her hands were steady. Her heart was not. Ma. Finn's voice was shaky. What do we do? She turned to face him. Her son. Patrick's son. The only thing she had left in this world. We fight, she said. We fight or we die. There's no other choice now. Finn swallowed hard. Then he nodded. Then we fight. In the cellar, Eli held his children. He'd heard everything through the floorboards. 24 hours. Not enough time to run. Not enough time to hide. But maybe enough time to end this. He looked at Emma, William, and Rose, at their tiny faces, at everything he had left. I'm going to fix this, he whispered. I promise you, Daddy's going to fix this. Above him, Margaret was already planning, already preparing. She'd made her choice. Now she had to live with it, or die for it. That night, Margaret found Eli on the porch. He was staring at the stars, his face unreadable. You should be resting, she said. Couldn't sleep. Me neither. She stood beside him. The cold was brutal, but she didn't feel it. Whitmore won't wait 24 hours, Eli said. He was testing you, seeing if you'd break. I don't break. I know. He turned to look at her. That's what scares me. Why? Because people like you, people who don't break, they're the ones who get hurt the most. They're the ones who stand when everyone else runs. And they're the ones who pay the price. Margaret met his eyes. My husband used to say the same thing. He sounds like he knew what he was talking about. He did. She paused. He also said that some things are worth the price. Some people are worth fighting for. Eli was quiet for a long moment. My wife, he said slowly. Catherine. She died giving birth to Emma, William, and Rose. 3 babies at once, it was too much. The doctor said there was nothing he could do. Margaret listened. I held her hand while she died. She made me promise to keep them safe, to protect them no matter what. And you have. I've tried. His voice cracked. But I'm failing. Every day I'm failing. I can't keep running. I can't keep hiding. And now I've put you in the middle of it. Margaret reached out, took his hand. You didn't put me anywhere. I chose to be here. He looked at their joined hands, then at her face. Why would you risk everything for a stranger? I already told you. Tell me again. She thought about it, about Patrick, about Finn, about the life she'd built from nothing. Because everyone deserves someone who believes in them, she said. Everyone deserves a chance to prove they're more than what people say about them. Eli's eyes glistened. Catherine would have liked you, he whispered. You think so? I know so. She always said she could tell a person's character by how they treated strangers. Something passed between them. Fragile, new, terrifying. Margaret pulled her hand back. Get some sleep. We've got a long day ahead. She went inside. Eli stayed on the porch watching the stars. And for the first time since Catherine died, he felt something besides grief. He felt hope. At dawn, Finn burst through the door. Ma Ryder's coming. A lot of them. Margaret was on her feet in seconds, rifle in hand, heart pounding. How many? I counted 12, maybe more. Eli. He emerged from the bedroom, pistol ready. The wound in his side was bleeding through the bandage. He'd moved too fast. I see them, he said. Whitmore's done waiting. Finn, get the babies to the cellar, all 3 of them. Now. Ma, I want to fight. I said now. Finn ran. Margaret moved to the window. The riders were spreading out surrounding the house. "We can't win this," Eli said. "I know." "Margaret, I said I know." She turned to face him. "But I'm not surrendering, and I'm not giving you up." "Why not save yourself? Save Finn. I'm not worth—" "Don't tell me what you're worth." Her voice was fierce. "Don't you dare." Eli stared at her. "I've buried a husband. I've raised a son alone. I've survived things that should have killed me." Her eyes burned. "And I will not let another good man die because someone with money decided he was inconvenient. Margaret, if we die today, we die fighting. Together." He looked at her, at the fire in her eyes, at the courage that had saved his life. "Together," he said. She nodded once. Then she raised her rifle and fired the first shot. The battle had begun. The first shot went wide. Margaret cursed and ducked as return fire shattered the window above her head. Glass rained down. She rolled left, came up firing again. "Eli, how many on your side?" "4, maybe 5. They're trying to flank us." "Finn," no answer from the cellar. "Finn." "I'm here. Ma babies are safe. Stay down there." "Like hell I will." Before she could argue, Finn was beside her, rifle raised. His hands were shaking, but his aim was steady. "I told you to stay with the babies." "They're hidden. They're quiet." He fired through the broken window. A man screamed outside. "You need me up here." Margaret wanted to send him back, wanted to lock him in that cellar and throw away the key. But he was right. They were outnumbered, outgunned. They needed every hand. "Stay low," she said. "Don't be a hero." "Same to you." Another volley of shots. The cabin walls splintered. Margaret felt something hot graze her arm. She looked down. Blood. "Ma." "It's nothing. Keep firing." Eli was at the back window shooting with his good arm. His wounded side was bleeding through the bandage, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. "They're pulling back," he called. "What?" "The ones on my side. They're pulling back." Margaret's blood went cold. "That's not retreat. That's regrouping. For what?" Before she could answer, she smelled it. Smoke. "They're burning us out," Finn said. His voice cracked. "Ma, they're burning us out." Margaret ran to the back window. Flames were licking up the side of the barn. Not the house, not yet, but the barn was close. Too close. "The horses," she breathed. "Leave them," Eli said. "I can't." "Margaret, if we go out there, we're dead. They're waiting for us to run." She knew he was right. But those horses. Patrick's horses. The last pieces of him she had left. "Ma." Finn grabbed her arm. "Pa wouldn't want you to die for horses." She looked at her son, at Patrick's eyes and Patrick's son's face. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." The barn went up fast. Margaret could hear the horses screaming. It was the worst sound she'd ever heard. Worse than Patrick's funeral. Worse than anything. "I'm sorry," she breathed. "I'm so sorry." Eli was beside her. His hand found hers in the chaos. "We'll get through this." "How?" "I don't know, but we will." A new voice rang out from the darkness. "Elijah McAllister. Whitmore. Standing in the firelight like the devil himself. I'm done playing games, McAllister. Come out now, and I'll let the woman and her boy live. You have my word." "Your word ain't worth spit," Margaret shouted back. "Mrs. Callahan." Whitmore's voice was amused. "Still fighting. I admire that. But let's be practical. You've got what 3 guns I've got? 12 men. Your barn is burning. Your house will be next. Then burn it. Excuse me." Margaret moved to the doorway. Eli grabbed for her, but she shook him off. "I said burn it." Her voice was steady, cold. "Burn my house. Burn everything I have. But you will not take this man. Not tonight. Not ever." Silence outside. Then Whitmore laughed. A cold, humorless sound. My God, he's really gotten to you, hasn't he? A few days with a wounded stranger, and suddenly you're willing to die for him. He paused. What would your husband think, Mrs. Callahan, if he could see you now? Margaret felt the words like a knife, but she didn't flinch. My husband would be standing right beside me, and he'd have put a bullet in you already. More silence. Then Whitmore's voice changed. Harder. Colder. Kill them all. The shooting started again. Faster. More desperate. Margaret fired until her rifle was empty, then grabbed Finn's when he ducked to reload. We're running low, Eli called. I know. Margaret, I have to go out there. No. If I surrender, they'll stop shooting. You and Finn can escape through the cellar, take the babies. I said no. This isn't your decision. She spun to face him. Her eyes were wild, fierce. The hell it isn't. This is my house, my family, my choice. I'm not your family. Then what are you? He stared at her. The question hung between them like smoke. I don't know, he said finally. But I know I can't watch you die for me. I can't. Then don't watch. She turned back to the window and fired again. The battle raged on. Minutes felt like hours. Margaret lost count of how many times she reloaded, how many shots she fired. Her arms ached, her ears rang. But she didn't stop. Then Finn cried out. Finn! He was on the ground clutching his leg. Blood seeped through his fingers. I'm okay. His voice was tight with pain. It's just a graze. I'm okay. Margaret was beside him in seconds. The wound was bad. Not life-threatening, but bad. Can you move? I think so. Get to the cellar, now. Ma. Do not argue with me, Finn Callahan. Get to that cellar and protect those babies. That's an order. Finn looked at her. His eyes were wet, scared. I love you, Ma. I love you too. Now go. He went, dragging himself toward the kitchen, leaving a trail of blood on the floor. Margaret watched him go. Her heart was breaking. He'll be okay, Eli said. You don't know that. No, but I believe it. She looked at him. At this man who'd brought chaos into her life, who'd brought danger and death to her doorstep, but also hope. Also something she hadn't felt in years. Why did you come here? She asked suddenly. Of all the places in Texas, why here? Eli was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made her blood freeze. Catherine. What? Catherine grew up in this town. Before I met her. Before everything. His voice cracked. She used to talk about a woman, a widow who ran a store, who helped people, who never turned anyone away. Margaret's hands started shaking. She said if anything ever happened to her, if I was ever alone, if I ever needed help, I should find that woman. She said she'd help me. She said she was the kindest person in the world. Tears streamed down Margaret's face. Catherine knew my husband, she whispered. She worked for us one summer, before she moved away. I know. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to help me out of obligation, out of memory. I wanted... He paused. I wanted you to choose, on your own, without knowing. And if I'd turned you away, then I would have understood, and I would have found another way. Margaret stared at him, at the man Catherine had married, at the father of Catherine's children. She talked about you, Margaret said slowly. That summer, she talked about a boy she'd met at a dance, a boy who kept asking her to dance even after she threw punch in his face. Eli almost smiled. Almost. She told you about that. She told me everything. She said she was going to marry him someday. I told her she was crazy. She was, but so was I. Something shifted between them. Something that had been building since the moment he collapsed on her porch. "I'm going to get you out of this," Margaret said. "I'm going to get all of you out of this. For Catherine." "Margaret!" "Shut up and reload." She turned back to the window, and that's when she saw it. Riders, coming from the east. Fast. "Eli, look." He moved to her side, squinted into the darkness. "Who is that?" "I don't know." The riders crashed into Whitmore's men like a wave. Gunfire erupted. Men screamed. Horses reared. "What the hell is happening?" Eli breathed. A voice rang out above the chaos. "Federal marshals, put down your weapons!" Margaret's knees went weak. "Esther," she whispered. She made it. She actually made it. The fight outside was over in minutes. Whitmore's men scattered. Some surrendered. Others tried to run. The marshals cut them off. And in the middle of it all, riding tall in the saddle, was a man with a silver star on his chest. Margaret Callahan. She stepped onto the porch, rifle still in hand. "I'm Margaret Callahan." The marshal dismounted. He was young, maybe 30, but his eyes were old. He'd seen things. "I'm Federal Marshal James Cooper. Got a telegram from a woman named Esther Crow. Said there was trouble out here." There was. "And the man you're protecting, Elijah McAllister." Margaret's grip tightened on her rifle. "What about him?" "Ma'am, I need to see him." "Why?" "So you can arrest him. Hand him over to Whitmore." "Whitmore is in custody." Cooper's voice was calm, steady. "He's been wanted by the federal government for 3 years. Bribery, corruption, murder. We just couldn't prove it." Margaret stared at him. "And now we have proof. A Texas Ranger named Daniel Reed kept records, letters, documents, evidence of everything Whitmore did." "Reed is dead." "Yes, ma'am. But his wife isn't. She gave us everything, and she told us something else too." Cooper paused. "She told us her husband's partner was innocent, that he was framed, that Whitmore wanted him dead because he knew too much." Margaret felt tears on her cheeks. "Eli didn't kill anyone." "I know. That's why I'm here, not to arrest him, to clear his name." She turned. Eli was in the doorway, pale, shaking his wound, bleeding freely now. "Is it true?" he asked. "It's true." Cooper stepped forward. "Mr. McAllister, you're a free man. The bounty has been lifted. The charges dropped. Whitmore is going to hang for what he did." Eli swayed. Margaret caught him before he could fall. "Easy," she murmured. "I've got you." "It's over." His voice was barely a whisper. "It's over." He started crying. Silent, shaking sobs that racked his whole body. Margaret held him, letting her own tears fall. "Shh," she whispered. "You're safe now. You're all safe." From the cellar, she heard the babies crying, and Finn's voice calling for her. "Mama, what's happening?" "It's okay, Finn. It's over. We won." A pause. Then Finn's voice again, cracked and relieved. "Thank God. Thank God." Margaret looked at Eli, at the man who'd changed everything. "Let's get you inside," she said. "That wound needs looking at." "Margaret?" "Later. Whatever you want to say, it can wait." "No, it can't." He grabbed her hand. His grip was weak, but his eyes were fierce. "Thank you," he said, "for believing in me, for fighting for me, for everything. You would have done the same. Maybe. But you did it first." He squeezed her hand. "Catherine was right about you. You are the kindest person in the world." Margaret felt her heart crack open. "Come on," she whispered. "Let's go home." She helped him inside. Behind them, the federal marshals were rounding up what was left of Whitmore's men. The barn still smoldered. The horses were gone, but they were alive, and for now, that was enough. Whitmore was in chains when they brought him past Margaret's porch. She stood there, rifle in hand, watching. His fine coat was torn. His silver hair was wild. His eyes burned with hatred. "This isn't over," he hissed. "Do you hear me? This isn't over." "Yeah," Margaret said calmly. "It is. I have lawyers. I have connections. I'll be free within a month, and when I am—" "When you are what?" Marshal Cooper stepped forward. "You'll what, Whitmore burn? Another barn, kill another ranger frame, another innocent man." Whitmore's face twisted. "I have the letters," Cooper continued. "All of them. Daniel Reed documented everything. Every bribe, every murder, every lie. You're not walking away from this. Not this time. You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I know exactly who I'm dealing with." Cooper leaned close. "A murderer, a coward, a man who hides behind money and power because he's too weak to face justice himself." Whitmore lunged. The marshals held him back. "Get him out of here," Cooper ordered. They dragged him away. Margaret watched him go. Felt nothing. No satisfaction. No relief. Just emptiness. "He'll hang," Cooper said quietly. "Within the month. I'll make sure of it." "Good. Mrs. Callahan." He turned to face her. "What you did here hiding McAllister protecting those children, that took courage. It took desperation." "Same thing sometimes." He paused. "If there's anything you need, anything at all, you let me know. I need my barn rebuilt. My horses replaced. My son's leg healed. I'll see what I can do." He tipped his hat and walked away. Margaret stood on the porch watching the marshals ride off with their prisoner. The sun was rising, pink and gold across the snow. A new day. A new beginning. "Ma." Finn was behind her, leaning on a makeshift crutch. His leg was bandaged tight. "You should be resting." "I couldn't sleep." He limped to her side. "Is it really over?" "It's really over." "And Eli?" "He's innocent. Always was." Finn nodded slowly. Then he said something that surprised her. "I'm glad." "You are?" "Yeah." He paused. "I didn't trust him at first. Thought he was going to get us killed. But—" He shrugged. "He's a good man, Ma, and those babies, they deserve a chance." Margaret looked at her son, at the man he was becoming. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher." She pulled him into a hug, careful of his leg, careful of everything. "I love you, Finn." "I love you too, Ma." They stood there holding each other as the sun rose higher. Behind them in the cabin, Eli was sleeping. The babies were safe, and for the first time in years, Margaret felt something she'd almost forgotten: peace. That afternoon, Esther arrived. She came riding in on a borrowed horse, looking like she'd been through hell and back, which Margaret supposed she had. "You look terrible," Margaret said. "You should see the other guy." Esther dismounted with a groan. 3 days' ride in this weather. I'm too old for this." "You made it." "Did you doubt me?" "Never." They embraced, two old friends who'd been through too much together. "Whitmore?" Esther asked. "In custody. They're taking him to Austin for trial." "Good. He deserves worse, but good." She pulled back, looked at Margaret. "And your stranger?" "Innocent, just like I told you." "Well?" Esther smiled. "Guess you were right. I usually am. Don't push it." They laughed. It felt strange, foreign, like a language Margaret had forgotten how to speak. But it felt good, too. "Come inside," she said. "There's coffee, and some people you should meet." They went in together. Eli was awake now, sitting by the fire with Emma in his arms. William and Rose were in the makeshift crib, sleeping peacefully. He looked up when they entered. "Mrs. Crow." "Mr. McAllister." Esther studied him. "So you're the one who caused all this trouble?" "Yes, ma'am, I am." She walked closer, peered at Emma. Pretty baby. Thank you. Her mother. Gone. I'm sorry for that. Esther looked at him. Really looked. But not sorry you found your way here. Margaret needed something to fight for. Esther, Margaret started. Hush, it's true. Esther sat down heavily. 4 years watching you waste away in this store. 4 years watching the light go out of your eyes. And now, look at you. Margaret didn't know what to say. You're alive again, Esther continued. I can see it. Something woke you up. She glanced at Eli. Or someone. It's not like that. Isn't it? Margaret felt her face flush. She turned away, busied herself with the coffee pot. Eli watched her go. His expression was unreadable. But Esther saw something. Something Margaret didn't want anyone to see. Interesting, she murmured. What's interesting? Finn asked, limping into the room. Nothing. Mind your own business. Yes, ma'am. They sat together, all of them, as the day wore on, talking, laughing, healing. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Margaret looked at Eli. He was holding Rose now, singing softly to her. A lullaby she didn't recognize. His voice was rough, broken, but gentle, and Margaret felt something shift inside her. Something she'd thought was dead forever. Stop staring, Esther whispered. I'm not staring. You absolutely are. Margaret looked away. But not before Eli caught her eye. He smiled. She smiled back. And Esther just shook her head. Lord help us all, she muttered. But she was smiling too. That night, after everyone else was asleep, Margaret found Eli on the porch. He was watching the stars. Same as before, but different now. The fear was gone. The desperation. In its place was something quieter. Couldn't sleep, she asked. No. Me neither. She stood beside him, close, but not touching. What are you going to do now? She asked. I don't know. He was quiet for a moment. I hadn't thought past surviving, past keeping them alive. Now that it's over, I don't know what comes next. You could stay. He turned to look at her. What? Stay. Here. I could use help with the store, with rebuilding the barn. She paused. And Finn could use someone to teach him things I can't. Margaret, I'm not asking for anything. I'm not asking you to feel something you don't feel. I'm just saying there's room here. For you, for the babies, for whatever comes next. He stared at her. The moonlight caught his face. His eyes were wet. Catherine told me about you, he said slowly. But she didn't tell me everything. What do you mean? She didn't tell me you were beautiful. She didn't tell me you were brave. She didn't tell me that meeting you would change everything. Margaret's heart stopped. Eli. I'm not asking for anything either. I know it's too soon. I know I'm broken and lost and carrying more baggage than any man should. But if you're offering me a place to heal, a place to raise my children, a place to figure out who I am now that I'm not running anymore. He took her hand. Then yes. I'll stay. Margaret looked at their joined hands. At his face, at the stars above them, Okay, she whispered. Okay. They stood there together, not speaking, not needing to. The winter wind blew cold around them. But neither of them felt it. They had each other. And for now, that was everything. 2 weeks passed. The snow began to melt. The world outside Margaret's window turned from white to brown to the first hints of green. Spring was coming early this year. Eli's wound healed clean. No infection, no fever, just a scar that matched the others he carried, marks of a life spent fighting, running, surviving. He worked every day despite Margaret's protests, clearing debris from the burned barn, hauling lumber from town, building something new from the ashes of what was lost. Finn worked beside him, limping at first, then walking, then running. Young bodies heal fast. Young hearts, too. Margaret watched them from the porch. Two figures in the distance, hammering and sawing, talking about things she couldn't hear. "You're staring again." Esther was beside her, a cup of coffee in each hand. "I'm supervising." "Is that what we're calling it now?" Esther handed her a cup. "The whole town is talking, you know." "Let them talk." "They're saying the widow Callahan has taken up with a stranger, a man with 3 babies and no wife, and a price that used to be on his head." "The price is gone." "Doesn't matter. People remember." Esther sipped her coffee. "Pastor Williams came by the store yesterday, asked about you." Margaret's jaw tightened. "What did he say?" "Said he was concerned. Said it wasn't proper a woman living alone with a man who wasn't her husband." "I'm not alone. Finn is here." "That's what I told him. He didn't seem convinced." Margaret turned to look at her friend. "What do you think, Esther?" "I think Pastor Williams can mind his own damn business." Esther smiled. "I also think you're happier than I've seen you in 4 years. And I think that man out there looks at you like you hung the moon." "He doesn't." "Oh, honey, yes he does." Margaret felt her face flush. She turned back to watch Eli and Finn working. "It's too soon," she said quietly. "Patrick's only been gone 4 years. 4 years is a long time to be alone. It doesn't feel long enough. It never does." Esther put a hand on her shoulder. "But Patrick loved you. He would want you to be happy. He would want you to live." Margaret didn't answer, couldn't, because the truth was, she was starting to feel things she hadn't felt in years, starting to imagine things she'd thought were impossible, and it terrified her. That evening, a rider came. Margaret heard the hoofbeats and grabbed her rifle by instinct. Old habits die hard, but it wasn't Whitmore's men. It was Marshal Cooper riding alone. He dismounted slowly, his face grim. "Mrs. Callahan." "Marshal, what brings you back?" "News." He glanced toward the half-built barn where Eli was watching. "News Mr. McAllister needs to hear." Margaret's stomach dropped. "What kind of news?" "The kind that changes things." They gathered inside. Margaret, Eli, Finn, Esther. The babies slept in the bedroom, unaware of the tension filling the cabin. Cooper stood by the fire, his hat in his hands. "Whitmore is dead." The words hit like a gunshot. "What?" Eli stepped forward. "How?" "Killed himself in his cell. 3 days ago. Hanged himself with his own belt before the trial could start." "That's impossible," Margaret said. "They would have searched him, taken anything he could use." "They did. Someone gave him the belt. Someone on the inside." "Who?" "We don't know yet, but we're investigating." Eli sank into a chair. His face was white. "It's over then," he said slowly. "Really over." "Not quite." Cooper's voice was heavy. "Before he died, Whitmore wrote letters, sent them to his associates, his allies, people who owed him favors." "What kind of letters?" "The kind that name names, that make accusations, that point fingers." Cooper paused. "Your name is in one of them, Mr. McAllister." "My name? He claims you're the one who really killed Daniel Reed. Claims he has evidence. Hidden evidence that will prove your guilt." "That's a lie." "I know it's a lie. You know it's a lie. But the people who receive these letters, they might not know. They might believe." Margaret felt the floor shift beneath her feet. "What are you saying, Marshal?" "I'm saying Whitmore might be dead, but his poison lives on. I'm saying there are people out there who still believe McAllister is guilty. People who might want justice, their version of justice. Bounty hunters. Possibly. Or just angry men looking for someone to blame." Cooper put his hat back on. "I wanted you to know, to be prepared." "Prepared for what?" "Whatever comes next." He left. The cabin was silent. Margaret looked at Eli. He was staring at the floor, his hands clasped tight. "This isn't your fault. she said. Yes, it is. Eli, Whitmore is dead because of me. And now his lies are spreading, infecting people, turning them against a man they've never met, against a man who's innocent. Margaret knelt in front of him, took his hands. You didn't do anything wrong. You survived. That's not a crime. Tell that to the men who'll come looking for me. I will. I'll tell anyone who asks. He looked at her. His eyes were wet, lost. Why? He whispered. Why do you keep fighting for me? Because you're worth fighting for. You don't know that. Yes, I do. She squeezed his hands. I've seen the way you hold your children, the way you work until your hands bleed, the way you look at the world like it owes you nothing, and you're grateful for every breath anyway. Margaret. I know exactly who you are, Eli McAllister, and I'm not letting anyone take that from you. Not Whitmore, not his ghost, not anyone. He stared at her. Then slowly he leaned forward and rested his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you, he breathed. Maybe not, but you've got me anyway. They stayed like that for a long moment, not moving, not speaking, just breathing together. Behind them, Esther quietly ushered Finn out of the room. Give them a minute, she whispered. But, Finn, come on. They left, and in the quiet cabin, something changed, something shifted, something began. 3 days later, the first stranger arrived. Margaret was in the store restocking shelves when the door opened. A man stepped in. Big, rough-looking, a scar running down his left cheek. Help you? Margaret kept her voice casual. Her hand moved toward the pistol under the counter. Looking for someone. The man's eyes swept the room. Man named McAllister. Heard he was staying around here. Lots of people stay around here. This is a general store. Don't play games with me, lady. I know he's here. And what if he is? The man smiled. It wasn't friendly. Then I reckon I'll be collecting that reward. There is no reward. The bounty was lifted. Says who, the government? He laughed. I don't answer to the government. I answer to the man who's paying. Whitmore is dead. His money ain't. The man stepped closer. $500. That's what I was promised. That's what I intend to collect. Margaret's hand closed around the pistol. I think you should leave. And I think you should tell me where he is. The door to the back room opened. Eli stepped out. Margaret's heart stopped. I'm right here. The stranger turned. His hand went to his gun. McAllister. That's right. Eli's voice was calm. Too calm. You want me? Here I am. Eli, don't... Margaret started. Stay out of this, Margaret. Like hell I will. She raised the pistol, pointed it at the stranger's chest. Both of you stop. The stranger froze. His eyes moved between Eli and the gun in Margaret's hands. Lady, put that down before you hurt yourself. I've killed men before. Don't think I won't do it again. Something flickered in the stranger's eyes. Surprise, maybe fear. This ain't your fight. Everything that happens in my store is my fight. Margaret's voice was steel. Now you've got two choices. Walk out that door and never come back, or stay and find out what happens to men who threaten my family. Your family. That's right. The stranger looked at Eli, at Margaret, at the gun that hadn't wavered. You're making a mistake, he said slowly. Wouldn't be my first. A long moment. Then the stranger backed toward the door. This ain't over. Yes, it is. For you. He left. The door slammed behind him. Margaret lowered the pistol. Her hands were shaking now. Margaret. Don't. She turned to face Eli. Don't you ever do that again. Don't you ever walk into danger like that. I was trying to protect you. By getting yourself killed. By ending it. By showing him I wasn't afraid. There's a difference between brave and stupid, Eli McAllister. And you just crossed the line. He stared at her. Then slowly he smiled. What? She demanded. You called me family. She blinked. What? When you were threatening him, you said my family. You called me family. Margaret felt her face flush. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. Eli. He stepped closer, close enough to touch. You meant it, he said softly. And I need you to know I feel the same way. You, Finn Esther, you're more family to me than anyone I've known since Catherine died. We barely know each other. I know enough. He took her hand. I know you saved my life. I know you protected my children. I know you stood between me and death and didn't flinch. Anyone would have done the same. No, they wouldn't. His eyes burned into hers. You're not anyone, Margaret. You're everything. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Eli, I'm not asking for anything. I know it's too soon. I know I've got no right. She kissed him. It wasn't planned, wasn't thought through. She just reached up, grabbed his face, and pressed her lips to his. He froze for a heartbeat. Then his arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and he kissed her back. It was like coming home, like finding something she didn't know she'd lost. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. Well, Eli said softly. That was unexpected. Shut up. Yes, ma'am. She laughed, actually laughed. The sound surprised her. Behind them, the door to the back room creaked. Finn stood there, eyes wide. I was just... Finn, Margaret stepped back, smoothing her dress. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. He looked at Eli, then at his mother, then back at Eli. So, this is happening now. Finn. It's fine, Ma. He held up his hands. I'm not mad. I need a minute. He walked past them and out the front door. Margaret started to follow. Give him time, Eli said. He's my son. I know, but he's also 17, and he just watched his mother kiss a man who isn't his father. Eli paused. That's a lot to process. Margaret looked at the door, at the space where Finn had been. What if he doesn't accept this? Then we figure it out. Together. And if he never does? Eli was quiet for a moment. Then I'll go. If that's what it takes to keep your family whole, I'll go. Eli. You and Finn, that's what matters. The babies and I will survive. We survived before. But I won't be the thing that tears you apart. Margaret turned to face him. Her eyes were wet. You would really do that? Walk away? For you? Yes, in a heartbeat. She stared at him. At this man who kept sacrificing everything, who kept putting others first. I won't let it come to that, she said. Finn will come around. I know he will. How do you know? Because he's his father's son. And Patrick believed in second chances. She took Eli's hand. So do I. Finn didn't come back that night. Margaret sat on the porch watching the road waiting. Eli brought her coffee, then dinner, then a blanket when the cold set in. He'll come back, he said. What if he doesn't? He will. He loves you. Love isn't always enough. No, but it's a start. Midnight came and went. Margaret dozed in the chair, jerking awake at every sound. Finally, near dawn, she heard footsteps. Finn appeared out of the darkness. His face was tired, his eyes red. Ma. Finn. She stood. Where have you been? Walking, thinking. For hours. I had a lot to think about. He stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. Is he still here? Yes. And you want him to stay? I do. Finn nodded slowly. He didn't say anything. Finn, I know this is hard. I know it feels like I'm replacing your father, but I'm not. I could never replace Patrick. He was... I know what he was. Finn's voice cracked. I know he was the best man I ever knew. I know he loved you more than anything. I know he would have died for you. For us. Then you know. I also know he's gone. Finn looked up. His eyes were wet. He's been gone for 4 years, Ma. And you've been alone. And I've watched you fade. Every day a little more. Every year a little less of you left. Margaret felt tears on her cheeks. Finn? And then this man shows up. This stranger with his babies and his wounds and his trouble. And suddenly you're alive again. Suddenly you're fighting. Suddenly you're you again. He climbed the steps, stood in front of her. Pa would want you to be happy. He told me that once. Made me promise. Promise what? That I'd take care of you. That I'd make sure you didn't spend your life alone. That I'd let you find love again if it found you. Margaret's hand flew to her mouth. He knew he was going to die. He knew something was coming. That last winter before his accident, he wasn't himself. He was preparing. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't understand it then. I do now. Finn took her hands. Eli's a good man, Ma. He's not Pa. He'll never be Pa. But he loves those babies. And he cares about you. I can see it. Finn, if you want him to stay, I won't stand in the way. That's what Pa would want. That's what I want. Margaret pulled her son into a hug, held him tight. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. Just be happy, Ma. That's all I ask. Just be happy. I'll try. That's enough. They stood there holding each other as the sun rose. Inside the cabin, the babies started crying. And somewhere behind them, Eli watched from the window, tears streaming down his face. The next few weeks were a blur. The barn went up fast. Neighbors came to help. People who'd whispered about Margaret behind her back now showed up with tools and food and offers of assistance. Funny how that works, Esther observed. Nothing like a scandal to bring people together. It's not a scandal. Not anymore. Now it's a love story. People love those. Margaret rolled her eyes. But she was smiling. Eli fit into their lives like he'd always been there. He woke early, worked late, played with the babies in between. He taught Finn how to track, how to shoot better, how to read the land. And at night, when everyone else was asleep, he sat with Margaret on the porch, talking, laughing, just being. I want to ask you something, he said one evening. Ask. He was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. A ring. Simple. Silver. Nothing fancy. This was my mother's, he said. She gave it to me before she died. Told me to give it to the woman I wanted to spend my life with. Margaret's heart stopped. Eli. Anna. I gave it to Catherine on our wedding day. She wore it until she died. I've been carrying it ever since. He held it out to her. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. Not until you're ready. But I want you to have this. I want you to know that when you are ready, if you ever are, I'll be here. Waiting. Margaret stared at the ring, at the history it carried, the love it represented. You're giving me Catherine's ring. I'm giving you a promise that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm yours if you'll have me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Yes, I'll have you. Yes, I want this. Yes to all of it. He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. Then he kissed her. Soft, gentle, full of promise. I love you, Margaret Callahan. I love you too, Eli McAllister. Behind them, through the window, Finn watched. He smiled. Then he turned and walked away, leaving them to their moment. Summer came in full bloom. The barn was finished. New horses filled the stalls. The store was busier than ever, travelers stopping in to buy supplies and hear the story of the widow who'd faced down an army. Margaret told the story so many times she started to believe it herself. You were really that brave, a young woman asked one afternoon. I was really that scared, Margaret corrected. Brave and scared aren't opposites. They're the same thing. I don't understand. You will, someday. The trial was held in Austin in August. Margaret and Eli didn't attend. Cooper sent word when it was over. Whitmore's estate was dissolved. His allies were arrested. His empire crumbled. Justice Cooper wrote had finally been served. Margaret read the letter twice. Then she burned it. Why? Eli asked. Because it's over. I don't need a piece of paper to remind me of what we survived. Most people would frame that letter. I'm not most people. He smiled. No, you definitely are not. September brought changes. Finn announced he was leaving, not forever, just for a while. He wanted to see the world, wanted to become a man on his own terms. I'll come back, he promised, but I need to know who I am, apart from you, apart from Pa, apart from everything. Margaret cried. She couldn't help it. I'm not losing you, Finn said. I'll write every week. I'll visit every chance I get. But this is something I have to do. I know. She wiped her eyes. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too, Ma. He hugged her tight. Take care of Eli, and those babies. They're going to need a strong grandmother. Grandmother? Finn grinned. Well, that's what they're going to call you right when you and Eli get married. Margaret laughed through her tears. Who says we're getting married? Please. Everybody knows. He kissed her cheek. I love you, Ma. I love you too, baby. He rode off that afternoon. Margaret watched until she couldn't see him anymore. Eli came up beside her, put his arm around her shoulders. He'll be okay. I know. He's strong, like his mother. He's strong like his father. Like both of them, then. Eli paused. Like us. Margaret leaned into him. Let his warmth surround her. Us, she repeated. I like the sound of that. So do I. October came with the first hints of cold, exactly 1 year since Eli had collapsed on Margaret's porch. They stood there now, together watching the sunset. 1 year, Margaret said. Feels longer. Feels like a lifetime. In a way it was. Eli took her hand. I died that night. The man I was before he's gone. You gave me something new, something better. I gave you frostbite and stitches. He laughed. The sound was full, free, something she hadn't heard from him in the beginning. You gave me hope, he said. You gave me a reason to keep fighting. You gave me a home. Margaret looked at the ring on her finger, at the life she'd built, at the family waiting inside 3 beautiful children who called her Mama now. I was thinking, she said slowly, about what? About what Finn said. About marriage. Eli went very still. Margaret, I know we said we'd wait. I know it's only been a year. But, yes. She blinked. What? Yes. The answer is yes. Whatever you're about to ask, the answer is yes. I didn't even... You were going to ask me to marry you, weren't you? Margaret felt her face flush. Maybe. Then yes. 1,000 times yes. She laughed. Actually laughed. That's not how proposals work. I don't care how they work. I care about you. About us. About building a life together. He took both her hands. His eyes were bright. Alive. Margaret Callahan, will you marry me? I asked you first. Then we'll both ask, at the same time. That's ridiculous. That's us. She couldn't argue with that. Fine, she said. On 3. On 3. 1. 2. 3. Will you marry me? They said it together. The words overlapping. the meaning clear. Yes, Margaret said. Yes, Eli said. And then they were laughing, crying, holding each other. A year ago, a dying man had knocked on her door. Now he was her future. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. Always. The sun set behind them. The night rose around them. And inside the cabin, 3 babies waited for their parents to come home. Their family. Their forever. The wedding was held on the first day of November. The whole town came. People who'd whispered behind Margaret's back. People who'd doubted. People who'd judged. They filled the small church to overflowing, standing along the walls, crowding the doorway. Margaret didn't care about any of them. She only saw Eli. He stood at the altar in a borrowed suit, his dark hair combed back, his eyes fixed on her like she was the only person in the world. Finn walked her down the aisle. His grip was steady. His face was proud. You ready, Ma? I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it. He kissed her cheek. Then he placed her hand in Eli's and stepped back. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. Margaret had expected him to refuse, to make some speech about propriety and morals. But he'd surprised her. I was wrong about you, he'd said the week before. About both of you. I hope you'll forgive an old man's foolishness. She had. Forgiveness came easier these days. Dearly beloved, the pastor began. We are gathered here today. Margaret barely heard the words. She was too busy looking at Eli, at the tears in his eyes, at the smile on his face, at the man who'd stumbled into her life and changed everything. Do you, Elijah James McAllister, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. His voice was rough, broken, beautiful. And do you, Margaret Ann Callahan, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? She thought about Patrick, about the life they'd built, about the love they'd shared. And she realized something. Loving Eli didn't diminish what she'd had with Patrick. It honored it. Patrick had taught her how to love, had shown her what it meant to give your whole heart to someone. Now she was doing it again. Not because she'd forgotten, because she remembered. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Pastor Williams smiled. You may kiss the bride. Eli cupped her face in his hands. Hello, Mrs. McAllister. Hello, Mr. McAllister. He kissed her, soft, sweet, full of promise. The church erupted in cheers. Emma, William, and Rose, held by Esther in the front row, started crying. Everyone laughed. That's our cue, Margaret said. To run. To begin. They walked down the aisle together, hand in hand, husband and wife. Outside the sun was shining. The air was crisp and cold. Perfect. We did it, Eli breathed. We did. No more running. No more hiding. He pulled her close. Just us. Just family. Just life. I can live with that. So can I. They stood there holding each other as the guests poured out around them, congratulating, celebrating, welcoming them into something new. A second chance. A new beginning. A love that neither of them had expected to find. The reception was held at the store, tables set up outside, food everywhere, music playing from somewhere. Finn made a toast. To my mother, he said, raising his glass. The strongest woman I know. And to Eli. He paused. To my new father, who I didn't trust at first, who I didn't want here, who I was wrong about. Margaret felt tears on her cheeks. Pa told me once that family isn't about blood, it's about choice, it's about showing up, it's about fighting for each other even when it's hard. Finn's voice cracked. Eli, you showed up. You fought. You stayed. And that makes you family. He raised his glass higher. To the McAllisters, may your love last forever. To the McAllisters, the crowd echoed. Margaret couldn't speak. Eli put his arm around her. You raised a good man. he whispered. He raised himself. I just watched. That's not true, and you know it. She leaned into him, let herself be held. Esther appeared beside them, a baby in each arm, Rose on her hip. These three need their parents. Already? Margaret laughed. They've been patient long enough. Unlike some people. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, Esther winked. Just that it took you too long enough to figure things out. We figured it out in the end. That you did. She handed William to Eli, Emma to Margaret. Rose reached for her new mother with tiny grabbing hands. Mama, she said. Margaret's heart stopped. What did she say, Pooh? Mama. Rose said it again. Clear, certain. Eli stared. She's never said that before. First word. Esther smiled. And she chose it for her wedding day. Smart girl. Margaret held Rose close, tears streaming freely now. That's right, baby. I'm your mama. And I'm your papa. Eli added, his voice thick. Emma gurgled. William kicked his legs. And just like that, the McAllister family was complete. Winter came hard that year, harder than anyone expected. But Margaret didn't mind. The cabin was warm, the store was busy, the children were healthy, and every night she fell asleep in Eli's arms. Tell me about Catherine, she said one evening. Eli went still. What do you want to know? Everything. I want to know who she was, what she loved, what made her laugh. Why? Because she's part of our family too. Her children are my children now. I should know their mother. Eli was quiet for a long moment. Then he started talking. He told her about how they met, about the barn dance, about the punch in the face, about how he'd known from the first moment that she was the one. He told her about their wedding, small, simple, just the two of them and a preacher. He told her about the day she found out she was pregnant, about the fear in her eyes when the doctor said triplets, about the determination that replaced it. She wanted them so badly, Eli said. Even knowing the risk, even knowing what 3 babies could do to her body, she wanted them anyway. She sounds brave. She was. Braver than me. Braver than anyone I've ever known. He paused. Except you. Margaret shook her head. I'm not brave. You're the bravest person I've ever met. You took in a dying stranger. You stood up to an army. You gave 3 orphans a mother. His voice broke. You saved us, Margaret. All of us. I saved myself, too. What do you mean? She turned to face him. When you collapsed on my porch, I was dying, slowly, quietly, fading away a little more every day. I didn't even realize it. Margaret, you gave me something to fight for, something to live for. You didn't just find a mother for your children, Eli. You found a reason for me to keep breathing. He pulled her close, held her tight. I love you, he whispered. I love you too. And I love Catherine. For raising you. For giving you those babies. For sending you here. You think she sent me? I think. Margaret smiled. I think sometimes people who love us find ways to help us, even from wherever they are. Eli kissed her forehead. I think you're right. They sat together in the quiet. 2 people who'd lost everything. 2 people who'd found each other. 2 people who'd finally come home. Spring came early, the snow melted, the world turned green. The babies took their first steps. Emma went first, wobbling across the cabin floor while Margaret and Eli cheered. William followed a day later, determined not to be outdone. Rose waited a week. Then she walked straight to Margaret, grabbed her skirt, and looked up with those big dark eyes. Mama. That's right, sweetheart. I'm right here. Finn came home for a visit. He'd been working on a ranch in Colorado, learning the cattle business. He looked older, stronger, more at peace. You look happy, Ma. I am happy. Good. He hugged her. That's all I ever wanted. What about you? Are you happy? He thought about it. I'm getting there. It takes time. It does. But I've got time. We all do. He stayed for a week, played with the babies, helped Eli with the new barn, sat on the porch with Margaret and talked about everything and nothing. The night before he left, he said something that made her cry. I'm proud of you, Ma. Proud of me for what? For not giving up, for choosing to live, for loving again even when it was scary. He took her hand. Pa would be proud too. I know he would. You really think so? I know so. He paused. He came to me in a dream once, after everything happened, after Eli, after the wedding. Margaret's breath caught. He did. He was smiling. He said to tell you thank you. Thank you for what? For keeping your promise, for not wasting your life, for finding joy again. Finn's eyes were wet. He said he'd been waiting, watching, hoping, and you finally gave him what he wanted. Margaret couldn't speak, could barely breathe. He's at peace, Ma. Because you are. She pulled her son into a hug, held him like she'd never let go. I love you, Finn. I love you too, Ma. Always. He rode off the next morning. But he'd left something behind. Peace. The kind that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be. A year passed, then 2, then 5. The babies grew into children. Wild. Beautiful. Full of life. Emma had her father's eyes and her grandmother's stubbornness. William had Catherine's gentle heart and Eli's quiet strength. Rose was all Margaret, fierce and tender, brave and kind. They called her Mama. They called Eli Papa. They never knew any different. Should we tell them? Eli asked one night. About Catherine, about the truth. When they're older, when they're ready. What if they hate us for keeping it secret? They won't. Margaret took his hand. Because we'll tell them the whole story. How their mother loved them so much she died giving them life. How their father carried them through a blizzard. How a stranger opened her door and became their mama. It's a good story. It's the truth. Same thing sometimes. She kissed him. He kissed her back. And in the next room 3 children slept peacefully, dreaming of horses and adventures and a world full of possibilities. Esther died in the 6th year, quietly, in her sleep, with a smile on her face. Margaret found her in the morning, sat beside her bed and cried. You stubborn old woman, she whispered. You weren't supposed to leave yet. But even as she said it, she knew Esther had been ready for years, had only stayed to make sure Margaret was okay. The funeral was small, just family, just the people who'd known her best. Margaret spoke at the graveside. Esther Crow saved my life, she said. Not with medicine or bandages, but with truth. She told me when I was being foolish. She told me when I was being brave. She never let me give up even when I wanted to. She looked at the coffin, at the simple wooden box that held her oldest friend. I'll miss you every day, but I'll see you again. I know I will. And when I do, you'd better have coffee ready. We've got a lot of catching up to do. She threw the first handful of dirt. Then she walked away. Eli caught up with her at the edge of the cemetery. You okay? No, but I will be. How do you know? She looked back at the grave, at the mourners, at the life she'd built from the ashes of everything she'd lost. Because that's what she taught me. That's what we all taught each other. You fall down, you get up, you keep going. And if it hurts, it always hurts. But pain doesn't mean you're dying. Sometimes it means you're alive. He took her hand, squeezed. I love you, Margaret McAllister. I love you too. Now let's go home. They walked together, toward the wagon, toward the children, toward everything they'd built. And Margaret didn't look back. The children asked about death that night. "Where did Aunt Esther go?" Emma asked. "Heaven," Margaret said. "Where all the good people go. Will we go there too? Someday, a long, long time from now. Will you be there? And Papa? We'll all be together, forever." William crawled into her lap. "I don't want you to die, Mama." "I don't want to die either, but that's not something we get to choose." "Then what do we choose?" Margaret thought about it. About Patrick. About Catherine. About Esther. About everyone she'd lost and everyone she'd gained. "We choose how we live," she said finally. "We choose to be kind, to be brave, to love each other even when it's hard. That's what matters. Not how long we have, but how we spend the time we've got." "Is that why you helped Papa when he came to our door?" "Yes, sweetheart, that's exactly why." Rose climbed up next to her siblings. "Tell us the story again, Mama. About the blizzard. About how Papa almost died." "Again, I've told you that story 100 times. We like it." Margaret looked at Eli. He smiled. "Go on. I like it too." She took a deep breath. It was the coldest winter anyone could remember. The snow was so deep you couldn't see the road. The wind was so loud you couldn't hear yourself think. "I was standing at the window watching the storm when I heard something." She told the story. The same story she'd told 100 times before. But somehow it was different now. Fuller, richer, more true. Because she wasn't just telling her children a story. She was telling them who they were, where they came from, what they were made of. She was telling them about love. Years passed like water through fingers. The children grew. The store expanded. The town changed. Emma married a banker's son from Austin. She had 4 children of her own. William became a doctor. He traveled to places Margaret had never heard of, healing people, saving lives. Rose stayed close to home. She took over the store when Margaret got too old to run it. She had her mother's strength and her father's quiet wisdom. And Finn. Finn came home. He built a house on the hill overlooking the property. He married a woman named Sarah, who reminded Margaret of herself, stubborn, fierce, full of fire. They had children, then grandchildren. The land filled up with McAllisters and Callahans, all mixed together, all family. Margaret watched it all, marveled at it, thanked God for every single day. "You did this," Eli said one evening. They were sitting on the porch. Same porch where everything had begun. Same view, same stars. But different. So different. "We did this," she corrected. "No, you opened the door. You made the choice. Everything that came after all of it started with you." "You knocked?" "Anyone can knock. Not everyone opens." He was quiet for a moment. Then he took her hand. "I've been thinking about that night. The night I collapsed on your porch. The night I thought I was going to die." "What about it?" "I was ready to give up. I'd lost everything. Catherine, my home, my name, my hope. I was carrying 3 babies through a blizzard, and I knew we weren't going to make it. But you did make it. Because of you." His voice cracked. "You could have left me to die. Any sane person would have. A wounded stranger with a price on his head and 3 babies. That's not a blessing. That's a burden." "You were never a burden." "I was. But you didn't see it that way. You saw—" He paused. "What did you see, Margaret, that night when you opened the door? What did you see?" She thought about it. About the snow, the blood, the babies pressed against his chest. "I saw a father," she said finally. "A father who loved his children so much he walked through a blizzard to keep them alive. A man who was willing to die so they could live. That's all. That's everything." She squeezed his hand. "That's the only thing that matters. Not what you've done. Not what people say about you. Just, are you willing to love? Are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to put someone else first? And you saw that in me. I saw that in a man who couldn't even stand, who was half dead and frozen and bleeding, who looked at me with those dark eyes and said, "Save them. Not me. Just save them." Tears streamed down Eli's face. "I meant it." "I know you did. That's why I opened the door." They sat together in silence, two old people now, gray-haired and weathered by time, but still holding hands, still together, still in love. "I want to thank you," Eli said. "For what? For everything. For the life we've built. For the children we've raised. For every morning I wake up next to you and know that I'm home. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. Because you deserve it. Because you've given me more than I ever thought possible. Because—" His voice broke. "Because I love you, Margaret. I've loved you since the moment you pointed that rifle at my face. And I'll love you until the day I die. And after that, forever." Margaret leaned into him. Let his warmth surround her one more time. "I love you too, Eli. I always have. I always will." The stars shone above them, the same stars that had watched over them all those years ago. And somewhere beyond the veil, Patrick smiled. So did Catherine. So did Esther. All of them watching, waiting, knowing that someday they'd all be together again. But not yet. Not tonight. Tonight was for the living. Margaret McAllister died in her sleep at the age of 78. Eli was beside her holding her hand just as he had for 30 years. He followed her 6 months later, unable or unwilling to face a world without her in it. They were buried together on the hill overlooking the store, next to Patrick, next to Esther, next to all the people they'd loved and lost and would see again. The headstone was simple: Margaret and Elijah McAllister. They found each other in a storm. They built a home in the ruins. They loved until the end. Finn read the words at the funeral, his voice steady even as tears rolled down his weathered cheeks. "My mother used to say that courage isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and standing your ground anyway." He looked at his family, at Emma William and Rose, gray-haired now themselves, at their children and grandchildren, at all the lives that existed because one night a desperate man had knocked on a stranger's door. She was the bravest person I ever knew, and so was he. They taught me that love isn't something you find, it's something you build, board by board, day by day, choice by choice. He placed his hand on the headstone. "Rest now, Ma. Pa, you've earned it." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of sage and snow. And somewhere in the space between memory and eternity, Margaret and Eli walked together toward a light that never faded. Home at last. Forever. And the story they'd written together, a story of loss and love, of pain and healing, of strangers becoming family, lived on. Passed down through generations. Told and retold around firesides and dinner tables. A reminder that kindness matters. That courage matters. That opening your door to a stranger in need might just change everything. Not just for them, but for you too. Because that's what Margaret Callahan learned on that cold winter night when a dying man knocked on her door. That love isn't found, it's chosen, and she chose right.